So today I'm at the beach. This is Aspendale Beach. It's about 40 minutes drive south of the city of Melbourne. And this is the suburb that I grew up in. So my parents' house is about 5 minutes from here. When I was growing up, I came to this beach a lot to swim, go for a jog, or walk the dogs, or just enjoy the sunset. The reason I'm here today is because this beach is a really important place for me because this is where I learned how to swim. So I'd say that I'm a decent swimmer now. I'm not Michael Phelps, but I can swim for a reasonable distance and I'm pretty comfortable in the water. But this was most definitely not always the case. There was a specific time in my life where I had to learn how to swim. When I was 8 years old, I moved to a new school. It was a private boys' school. I was there on scholarship, and it was a completely new experience for me. I was smaller than the other boys in the class. I was younger than them, and emotionally less mature as well. So the whole thing was a bit of a culture shock to me. Like many Australian private schools, this one was absolutely sports mad. There was sport before school, during school, after school, at lunchtime, on the weekends. There was some kind of training or competition for sport all the time. This was all brand new for me because I came from a family that didn't care about sport at all. And in the first couple of years after I arrived, one sport that we seemed to focus on a lot in our physical education classes was swimming. So in Australia, being able to swim is considered pretty important because we're surrounded by water. We have beaches and lakes and rivers everywhere. So it would make sense that swimming would be a big part of our sports program. But it sucked for me because I couldn't swim at all. I had played around in the water before, but I couldn't actually swim the full length of a 25-meter pool without hanging onto the sides or hanging onto a lane rope. So when we had these swimming classes during school, I was really out of my comfort zone. And in fact, I absolutely dreaded these classes. I don't remember there being much explicit instruction. Our PE teacher would demonstrate a few movements out of the water, but then just kind of throw us into the water and make us swim laps without really explaining how you do that. It's quite scary to be a young child in deep water and not know how to swim. Sometime prior to this, I had been swimming in a neighbor's pool and I had sunk to the bottom and I couldn't figure out how to get to the surface again. And luckily the neighbor, the dad, pulled me out just in time. So I'd already had a bad experience with water. On top of that was the embarrassment I felt at being incompetent. I was new at the school and I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be accepted. And here I was, not able to do something that I could see all the other boys doing. I couldn't understand how they could all swim so well. They were swimming like lap after lap after lap and making it look really easy. And some of them were swimming advanced styles like butterfly. I think the PE teacher just gave up on me after a while and he would leave me and a few other hopeless cases in our own lane to just fend for ourselves while he focused on the boys who actually could swim. After weeks and weeks of these horrible classes, I was still literally just trying to keep my head above water. While the other boys were getting better and better every week, I wasn't even able to start practicing the skill that I was there to practice. So of course, I wasn't making any progress. So my fear and embarrassment and frustration and discouragement grew and grew and grew. And eventually, I decided that I had to do something about this. So summer arrived, which in Australia means the end of the school year, and I decided that I was going to teach myself how to swim. But how? You have to remember in those days, there was no YouTube. The internet was just starting. I didn't have an older sibling who could show me. My sister was 5 years old at the time and she couldn't swim. I only had one friend in the class and he was a little Asian kid who was an even worse swimmer than me. My mum grew up in a high-rise apartment in Hong Kong. She couldn't swim. She'd never been in the water. My dad could kind of doggy paddle around a little bit, but he's just uncoordinated in general. So I was going to have to figure this out for myself. So it sounds unbelievable now, but I actually learned how to swim from a library book. If I remember right, it was a book literally called How to Swim, and it explained everything in a very simple and logical way with lots of pictures and diagrams. And when I read this book, for the first time, I was introduced to the underlying principles of swimming that had never been explained to me in PE class. So I had information now. That was the first piece of the puzzle. But now I had to transform this information into skill. And how was I going to do that? Well, the answer, of course, was practice. So in this whole situation, I did have one big advantage. I live near the beach. So it was relatively easy for me to come down here and practice my swimming. That summer, I would come down here as often as I could with my dad and my sister. And while they were splashing around in the water and doing their own thing, I would go off into some shallow water and work on my swimming. I couldn't bring the library book to the beach with me. So what I did was I would memorize certain pictures in the book, then come to the beach and try and recreate those body positions and those movements in the water. Things didn't work in the beginning, so I would go home, read the book again, and try to find the key piece of information or the key idea that I was missing. And then I would come back a few days later and adjust what I was doing. What I remember most about this process was the experimentation. I tried a lot of different things until I discovered what worked for me. And this is something I've noticed many times throughout my life. You can have access to all the information in the world and even have a really good teacher, but ultimately it's you who has to assimilate the information and then find a way to effectively use it. So anyway, after a fair bit of trial and error, I discovered that side stroke was my best survival stroke. And to this day, it's the stroke I use when I need to cover a large distance in the water. I also figured out how to tread water, which was a game changer because it allowed me to effectively rest and recover in the water when I was too tired from swimming. The biggest challenge by far was freestyle. I didn't want to learn it, but I knew I had to because our PE teacher freaking loved it and it kept coming up over and over again in PE classes. One really important principle I got from the book is that I needed to stretch out and create a streamlined shape in the water with my body, which was really counterintuitive because when you're in survival mode, your instinct is to remain upright with your head out of the water. To swim freestyle, you have to do exactly the opposite. You have to relax, stretch out, and face directly down into the water. So it took a lot of getting used to. I think a major breakthrough came when I could swim a few strokes of freestyle and take a breath in the middle. Now that I had this basic building block of skill, I could start stringing these blocks of skill together and gradually increase the distance that I could cover before I needed to stop and have a rest. I actually remember counting the number of strokes, like trying to hit 10 strokes in a row, and then trying to hit 20 in a row, and then trying to hit 30 in a row, and so on. So I kept getting better week after week, and things were starting to click. And eventually, I felt like I needed a bigger goal to work towards. And the only tangible goal that I could think of was that navigation marker out there. Basically, it's a wooden pole, an X on the top. That was going to be the goal that I would work towards. I was going to swim out to that marker, touch it, and come back. When I attempted this challenge for the first time, it was pretty scary. I was trying to do something that I'd never done before. And I guess looking back, it was an element of risk, but I felt confident in my abilities because of all the progress and all the practice that I had done. I was scared, but at the same time, I felt like I was ready. So here we are. It's about 30 years later, and that pole is still there. So let's go for a swim. First time I did this, it's a bit calmer, luckily. It's a few waves today. I wasn't expecting the waves to be this strong. That was actually pretty scary. I was not expecting that. Wouldn't it be ironic if I drowned while making a video called How I Learned to Swim? Oh fuck, my arm's bleeding. My problem started when the wind and the waves smashed me into the pole, and I ended up cutting up my arm, as you can see, and also my leg. But it's good content, right? So I've taken a moment to just calm down a bit. I had a genuine moment of panic just then. But the amazing thing is, the same voice, the same inner voice that I learned to develop when I was a kid, helped me get through that situation just then. It was exactly the same voice. It was a voice telling me, stay calm, keep doing what you know how to do. You've done this 100 times, just keep going. I think that's enough for one night. So I've come back here about a week later to finish the video. The cuts from the barnacles have mostly healed. But anyway, it's been an interesting experience to sort of look back at this time in my life and reflect a bit. In retrospect, I think that this process of learning how to swim was a defining event in my life. And from that time onwards, I've never really seen anything as impossible. Every time I come up against a limit in my abilities or knowledge, I see it as a challenge. Whether it be learning jazz piano or guitar or Russian or jiu-jitsu, I analyze the problem and I ask myself, what are the key activities I need to do, or what are the key concepts that I need to understand in order to get better? I don't feel like anything has come easily to me. I love learning, but it's always been a struggle. And in fact, with a lot of things, I've always tended to learn slower than other people in the beginning. The ability to learn and improve is a superpower that we're all born with. And that's exactly why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, because I want to show people that skills and habits and abilities and even character don't just come out of nowhere. So this is a YouTube channel where I show you what I've learnt and what I'm learning, and most importantly, how we all can get better at learning. I decided from the beginning that I would post everything here, my failures, my successes, but most importantly, my continual, steady, daily progress forwards. It's also a place where I discuss some topics that I do know something about, like music and languages, and occasionally post some funny videos. I'm interested in a lot of things, and that's probably why my channel feels like it's going in too many directions. But the underlying themes that I'm passionate about are learning and growth, how we all can improve our skills, our abilities, our knowledge, and our mindset. So I don't know exactly what brought you here, but I'm absolutely amazed and excited that 10,000 people from around the world have decided to subscribe to this channel. It's a huge honor to be able to help you or entertain you in some way. So whoever you are and wherever you are in the world, and whatever it is that interests you, I'm very grateful for your support, and I'm going to do my best to keep bringing you content that is interesting and useful and entertaining. I don't really know what I'm doing with this channel, and I have no idea where it's going, but I do know that I'm just getting started.